In some ways, it sounds like you're offering a different narrative, maybe of even what awakening is. That we're given this narrative of eradication, which might be the beginning narrative of when they're seen as adversaries. But I'm hearing, there could be a different way of creating the story about awakening that would be radically different than what we get in
Yeah, that's good. A good point. Yeah, it leads us to an eradication project, taking as much to the dump as we can fit in the car at any given time. That, I think, is not helpful. All that does is set up another adversarial relationship with these parts of ourselves that we've already labeled as bad or as unskillful or unwholesome. And the way Buddhist psychology divides them up that way, into wholesome and unwholesome qualities, they're all potentially wholesome, or can be helped to be wholesome, which is the job of the self in IFS framework. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a much more helpful way of thinking about these things.
Yeah. And I appreciate it because what I'm hearing you do is it's giving us a story or a narrative that's actually effective, and that's what we're looking for, is an effective narrative. If the narrative of eradication of greed, hate, and delusion doesn't work, why not use this? Because I'm hearing, if I hear you correctly, it's leading in the same direction.
Yeah, because the goal, if it's not so much goal directed, but integration. It's not elimination, but it's integration.
Integration.
For one thing, we never get rid of these parts. We can help them change their function and find new roles, which is what IFS is about. We can help them find new roles, but we never get rid of them. That's a hard teaching, especially if you've grown up in spiritual traditions which hold eradication or extinction of the defilements as the optimal outcome. This is quite different. But if you can get over that particular hurdle, it opens up a much more positive way of working, I think.
Yeah. And also what I'm hearing in this is I can, sometimes when I sense inside and I get a sense of what you're saying, I can see, and I probably this happened in my practice, the appeal of this practice, this kind of language of eradication, can really fit into wanting to be the special person without any imperfections.
That's right, exactly.
And it feels like I could even see how this could really work with a kind of compulsion towards that, which wouldn't be so skillful.
Right.
And that this reframing can give maybe a healthier outlook or provide for something.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Those of us who are closet narcissists couldn't ask for a better setup. Ideal enlightenment is the narcissist's ideal of being perfect, of being invulnerable to hurt or blame. It's like heaven sent.
Yeah.
But it's a complete non-starter. It just creates so much more suffering.
In one of your articles, you said something really interesting. I wonder if you could expound upon it. You said that narcissistic vulnerabilities are there even for someone who has a healthy sense of self. And I wonder if, I was just curious about that statement, that it's not only for, in terms of deep wounds, but even if we've done some of this work to gain more ego strength, it can still be there. I wonder if you could elaborate on that.
Well, I think that the narcissistic repairs that need to be made along the way, if there hasn't been a secure attachment in childhood, or there hasn't been, in older analytic language, there hasn't been adequate mirroring. Some of those wounds, those deficits, a lot of them can be compensated for or overcome, but there's often some residual element there, a little bit maybe that's left. And that has to be respected. And again, we don't like that. We'd like it to be perfect. It's just like a medical illness. We want full recovery, full and complete recovery, and we want to be back to where we were. The cancer that I was diagnosed with 5-6 years ago has been such a teaching, and a difficult one, because what I've learned is, my first assumption was, all right, I do a course of chemotherapy, which is awful. Mm-hmm. Course of radiation, which is not awful in my case, but still significant. and then 2 years of a monoclonal antibody, which also led to emergency room admissions. And in the back of my mind the whole time is, I'm waiting to get back to where I was.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last year or two, I've begun to realize that, no, that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Given this body, given this mind, and given my age, that's not going to happen. And that can either be a catastrophe or it can be a blessing in a way,
Mm-hmm.
something you are grateful around and can work with. That's with the way I'm trying to work with it now.
Yeah. And in light of this, I'm hearing, just to put it in the bigger picture of the spiritual path, that awakening's not about perfection, but it's more about integration.
Right.
And
Exactly.
some of it, hearing about your cancer, is also, it sounds like, grieving the loss of not being able to have a state of perfection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.